And let alone, as you said, to bury this pipe deep into the ground and then connect it into the ocean, where ships come in and suck like orange juice, if you ask me, is even the second most surprising thing. But as I said, we have a lot of work to do locally, in the sense that we have to reorient our citizens. There should be some form of national orientation to report anything they see not comfortable within their area. But we must also take this far and wide. Quite a lot of the reason why the citizens, maybe the locals here and about, do not even want to say or don't want to talk about. I'll tell you one dimension of it again. You'll find some wellheads that are not in use, and the locals are allowed to go and pressurize these wellheads that are not in use and bring oil out of them. And in that way, they also become part of the suppliers, as the previous speaker said. So you see, if a wellhead is not in use, why not completely decommission it? So there must be a reason why these wellheads that are not in use are left, because some of these underground pipelines connect to those wellheads where others find it easy to take from. So I will leave it there for now until you come back again. Thank you.
Okay, you leave it there for now with very good points that you have made, considering the operational methodology of those involved. They are highly, equipped persons. They have the know-how, and as rightly put it, the ingenuity, to do the construction, of whatever line that they have to tap into and get the oil siphoned. And as I was talking about the young men who are involved in this local refining, they made it clear to us also that sometimes they feed some ships in the high sea, and the question is, how did these ships get into Nigerian territorial waters? Who are those responsible for monitoring the nation's territorial waters to know when a ship had just leaped into the creeks, for this bad business? And so, Another Meti, thank you for monitoring entrances into our territorial waters.
Well, let me first, I was almost smiling when I heard the submission of Captain. First, when we talk about locals, maybe we are looking at some old fishermen or fishermen who are just in loincloths going to farm or to fish. Mind you that there are several people, young people, who were engaged in oil, by the oil companies or the oil servicing companies, trained to in pipeline welding and all these sort of things. Many of whom have, if you like, have been sacked from their jobs. They exist in the villages. So don't take this away from the capacities of those who can do it. I'll give you a story. As I said, I was a chairman of the subcommittee of the National Economic Council on this matter. That's several years ago. Now, we went to one of the locations and engaged the young men. One of them took up
Ledon Betrayal, but it looks like your load bandwidth is affected. Your connection to us. If the engineers and our director tell us that it's okay, we'll come back to you. Is it all right or still? All right. So Ledon, please, we can't hear you, so we'll come back to you later. Okay, Ledon, I understand you are back. You're back on. So we lost you at the point where you were trying to explain your visit to one of the locations where one of the young men was trying to say something. Exactly what that's what you were getting into. All right, it looks like there's a freeze one more time on this Zoom connection to us. I'd like to go back to our Lagos Network Center. Professor Dayo Ayade, there's an issue here that I would like us to also examine. I find it a bit curious. Yes, Captain Waredi and indeed others have said, oh, NNPC has opened our eyes to what's going on. But we know that the NNPC over the years, at least since 1977, have become increasingly specialized in its various arms, even of course with the PIA in existence. The refineries are corporate entities on their own. But there is a critical arm of the NNPC, which is PPMC, Pipelines Products Marketing Company. And of course, anyone who is interested in oil and gas will see from time to time where notices are by law advertised with regard to pipelines. And then you ask yourself, if there is a PPMC and these pipelines are being vandalized, these pipelines are being breached, these pipelines are being tapped into for crude oil theft, what is it that the PPMC had been doing all along?
That's an excellent question. I think that sums up the whole problem we have with crude oil theft in Nigeria. We have government agencies that are there, funded by a taxpayer to do a certain job. They're there to survey, do surveillance on pipelines, to know what's going on with the pipelines, and they seem not to know. First, we have to admit that there are thousands of kilometers of pipelines in sometimes rather in swampy areas and shallow waters, sometimes not very hospitable places. But you know, we'd expect NNPC's subsidiaries, like PPMC, we'd expect the government agencies such as the Navy and so forth, and the security agencies. We will have a maritime police to know what's going on in these areas, because this is the lifeblood of the Nigerian economy. So unfortunately, it seems that some of our institutions have dropped the ball. I mean, we're in an era where pipelines have sensors, you have data streaming online, you can computerize all these things and know exactly where the oil flows are and what's going on. For many years, we have not invested in these technologies. We have not invested properly, maybe, in surveillance. And then there's the whole issue of perhaps some people are involved in illegal crude oil theft. Do they have partners, maybe, in our institutions? These are some of the allegations that are coming out, but we don't actually know. But something is obviously very wrong if a ship can wander into our waters, into our territorial waters, pick up crude oil and sail away, and nobody says anything, and nobody can stop them, and nobody knows what's going on. We don't even know exactly how much of that crude has been taken away. So I think you have a good point there, that perhaps institutional failure is where we have to start. Right now, we said there's a pipeline that's been discovered for good 9 years, an illegal pipeline. Is that really possible? Is there nobody working in that area of the country? And are you telling me that this is the first time we're discovering a pipeline to magically come out of to come into existence? It's obviously problematic. You can't expect Nigerian public to believe this type of stories. Clearly, somebody knew it was there. They turned a blind eye to it, or they were complicit in it, and for reasons now that the matter's blown up higher, we're being given this one. Are there other pipelines? I suggest there may be.
Okay, there may be, and of course, the man who is now the lead in the process of stopping this menace, Tompolo, has already successfully got this one, and I'm sure he's also going further deep into the Niger Delta to get more. And one of his men, we learned from the social media, did not accept a 25 million bribe given to him not to reveal the operations of the illegal operators. And of course, that has yielded dividend. From what you said, perhaps if this push continues as it is, then we're going to get some more results. Let's return to Lidom Miti once more. So we lost your contact a short while ago, but we learned that you are back. You were telling us a story about a time you visited one of the enclaves of these young men and what they told you. Please, you can go ahead.
Well, I told you it's not. Hello?
Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly we can.
Hello?
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, we are. We are. You are on.
Hello?
Yes, you are on. You are on. You can go on.
Hello?
All right.
Stuff happens.
He's not sure that we can hear him.
Well, if we can take his audio without the visuals, I'm sure our engineers will sort that out. You can reach him via phone, and then let's listen to Lidom Bite. Of course, he has a lot to tell us with respect to this menace that we're dealing with. Back to Dr. Dr. Bassi of NTA, Director Technical of NTA. I know that, of course, NTA has its annual reports, and the issue of crude oil theft is also there. I think it was sometime in 2019 or thereabout, Governor Obaseki, who was the chair of one of the committees of governors to investigate and report back on crude oil theft, did present a report at a NTA event at Transcorp here in Abuja. And then you have all your numbers coming up from time to time. What is it that NTA finds in dealing with the recommendations on stemming crude oil theft in the country?
Thank you, Mr. Kingsley, for that. Let me just let me make some clarification before I answer your question. There was a question asked about PPMC in terms of the trunking of the crude from crude, what PPMC does. I think we need to look at it in two dimensions. There's the crude, for crude, it passes through the trunks, the pipes that are being maintained by JV operators. Sometimes Nigeria is in joint venture with some companies, and these are the ones that the multinationals operate on behalf of the country. So most of the punctual line that you see is along those crude pipe corridors that you have, which is jointly owned by Nigeria through NNPC in terms of the equity stake in the ventures. While the inland ones are the ones that have white product in terms of products from the refineries to depots, which also has been, vandalization is ongoing, but most of those pipes have also not enough to functional. That's why you see a lot of bridging trucks going on up and down. The major issues we're having with the export crude terminal ones are the ones that are within the coastal areas of Nigeria, whereby they puncture them, and then they loop it up to the ocean, and then it's being siphoned, like the captain has said earlier on. These are the ones that we have major issues with in terms of our crude losses, in terms of the ones that has direct impact on our revenue. While the other ones are products that have been siphoned, that's refined product that people scoop it, that's from that Atlas Cove and all of the other ones. So for those ones, NNPC is fully responsible for those ones, and I think they've been trying to see how those pipes are maintained. But the pipes are aged and they're aging. Most of our pipes are very, very old, and we need to maintain.
Dr. Bassi, I would like you to clarify this on the issue of pipelines. Professor Ayade already made his comment on that when I asked the question. Are you saying that even as a JV operation, the Nigerian partner in the joint venture is a sleeping partner, that it has no oversight whatsoever on what its other partners would be doing with regard to the trunking pipelines for transportation of crude oil to the oil terminals? Does the PPMC not have any role? Is PPMC solely concerned, for instance, with refined petroleum products?
Okay. Our JV asset is being managed by NAPIMS in terms of the true NAPIMS. That's the one, the NNPC subsidiary that manages those assets. So those ones are the operator manages those pipelines. While yes, oversight of these pipelines is supposed to be handled by the DPR, the fund DPR, which is now the commission, the Nigerian Upstream and Regulatory Commission. They're the ones that are supposed to supervise this one, the flow station, that we find out that to ensure that these pipelines are not punctured and are optimally produced, and then the issue of losses are also accounted for. They are the major ones that they are the regulatory arm of that government in terms of these pipelines. So we need to empower them. Thank God, the good thing is that PIA has empowered them now to do more of their regulatory function, oversight function on those pipelines, and then also on that operations. We also need to make sure that there has a collaborative effort with the security agencies that are attached to these areas. We know that the Navy and the Army are there to look at that trunk line. So collectively, that's what I'm trying to say, is that the regulatory agencies are supposed to work in tandem with the security agencies to ensure that these pipelines are not ruptured when they're supposed, and then they're fully protected, and our investment through the NNPC and NAPIMS is also protected in these areas. So I think it's a collective thing that we need to do. We've reported on crude losses, like I said, for a long time. And one of the key things that we found out is that there needs to be more collaboration between the various government agencies in terms of crude losses. We need to synergy. A ship cannot come and break into Nigerian territorial waters without it being noticed. We've been to some places whereby you see that for every vessel that comes into this country, there are indicators that you know that this vessel is in this country, and these vessels came in with a particular load and is going out with a particular load. You will know that this vessel has been uploaded with certain goods. Because of the buoyancy, you will know that the vessel is loaded. So how can we collaborate more for us to have this synergy between the security agencies and the regulatory agencies in this sector, and even the host communities, to know that this is our collective wealth? What NTA has been encompassing is that we need to, as a country, have a direct policy that will be able to look at synergizing these agencies together for effective monitoring. The issue of metering, do we actually know what we're producing? You pump from the flow station and what goes to the other side, the export point. Somebody punctures it, you will know. Because what you pump from there, if there's adequate metering facility, you will be able to know that your product has been lost. And if even the pressure will drop from where you're exporting from when your lines have been punctured. And I think, like we've all been saying here, if we have the political will to stop all these things, which we've seen has been manifested with the discovery of the pipeline that NNPC have just of recent, we've just seen huge pipelines that had discovered, and then public statements have been made, where everybody's asking, how can this exist for 9 years or so without not knowing about all of these things?
Good morning.
Along the line, these are pipelines that pass through communities, and I think people know about these things. But is there incentive for them to report on these issues? So I think we should be able to have that this oil well is a collective wealth for this country, and we should be able to see how we can harness it. With the PIA now, with the host community bill component of it, if this host community could have sense of belonging that this food is working for them, they'll be able to protect it more, because when they puncture these things, it's a huge disaster for them in the host communities, because some of these trunk lines, before you even weld it must also have rupture. It will spill some crude oil, and then it will affect the communities. And most of these ones require professionals to weld it, because it's high pressure pipes. A layman cannot do that. You must be properly trained to understand this thing. So who are these people trained?
There are people that are within the industry or or have industry experiences. So these are things that we need to look at holistically. And then we also, for us also, I think we need also have a step further to ask, who are these people that buy this product? Because if we don't have buyers for this product internationally, the market will dry up. It will be a disincentive for them to even once you steal crude and you don't have a buyer for it, it becomes a liability for you, and you have to stop it because it's not lucrative anymore. But as long as you have buyers, people willing to buy your product, I think it will not be. It will not discourage people from doing that. So I think we also need to look at the international aspect of it. How people from the international communities buy this soybean crude from Nigeria.
Dear Deputy Judge, we're going to come back to you in the course of the program. I think you have made your point, very valid points that you have made. I also want to push on with what some Nigerians are saying, Kinsley, saying that the nation is yet to muster the capacity to take over completely oil exploration in the country. These collaboration or partnership or whatever with foreign multinationals is also part of this problem. We were talking about international dimension to that. How do we know whether those who are also partnering with us do not have other people from different parts of the world that are also patronizing this oil trade? Because it's a plan, it's a network, and a network of highly placed professionals in that business that do this. And when you talk about PPMC, nappings, responsibility of agencies and what have you, who have come a long way, and we can't be talking about collaboration among agencies now. We're past that level because, of course, there's no agency that can operate, in isolation. There has to be a linkage between one agency and the other for the work to be done. And if there's no synergy, as he was pointing out, then of course nothing is going to work. If PPMC is operating at this level, at a different level, and nappings and the other level, yet they have reasons to have common challenge in the operations of what they are doing, then of course it's not going to work. And that's part of what the issues are. And that's why these thieves are making progress in Niger Delta, stealing our oil with impunity. All right, we'll take a short break now. When we come back, the conversation will continue. This is Good Morning Nigeria on NTA Network Service. Do stay with us.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
We've been trying our best to contain the situation, and in our operations we've been able to make a lot of recoveries. We've been able to also arrest suspects that are involved in this kind of activities, and we've been able to also recover particularly arms and ammunition from those who are carrying it unlawfully and disturbing the peace of the people. But generally, our morale in the Nigerian police is always guided by our commitment to do what we have sworn to do. Peace and security must be looked into as a priority by all, to look at security as the business of all of us.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youth, let's build our nation together.
Our pastors, our imams, in every church, in every mosque, please realize that in the course of praying for peaceful and transparent elections, we all have duties beyond prayers. If we want a stable society before, during, and after the elections, what should you be saying to those that worship with you? All Sundays and all Fridays, you are saddled with the responsibility of bringing up good generations. It is therefore your duty to both man and God to ensure peace all the time, no matter about elections alone. People talk to people and people listen. Talk to your followers. Make them listen to ensure peaceful 2023 elections. This message from the National Orientation Agency.
The security situation in Nigeria has been reasonably stable in spite of activities of unpatriotic elements engaged in various criminal activities around the country. Daily situation reports coming in from states 2 months ago, it has shown relative peace on many of our highways, such as Abuja, Kaduna Birnin Gwari, Sokoto, Zamfara, Kaduna.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We still have our three guests with us, Professor Ayade in our Lagos Network Studios, Data Bassi of Native, with us via Zoom, Captain Waredi, also still with us via Zoom from Warri. Captain Waredi, I want to come back to you. And this is something that I'm sure ordinary Nigerians who are minded to interrogate this issue will also be concerned about. And it's as follows. We have a regular guest on security issues on Good Morning Nigeria. His name is Dr. Kabir Adamu. And he says from time to time that there are some 25 odd agencies that have their mandate areas around intelligence and security. And I'm wondering, with regard to the massive crude oil theft in the Niger Delta, why does it appear that the security agencies have not been on top of their game? I say appear because if they do have their reports are not intended to be publicized. But you just ask yourself, Defense Intelligence Agency, where have they been? Naval Intelligence, where have they been? And we talk about the international dimension to the stealing of our crude. Where is the National Intelligence Agency, which deals with the external environment? Where is DSS? And where are the others? Is it that they were not getting this cooperation and support of the locals, or they were operating, or they have been operating in silos? What more can be done to ensure that these agencies get on top of their game, and that relevant or requisite action is then taken to stem the tide of crude oil theft in the Niger Delta? Captain Waredi.
Thank you very much, and it's a very good observation. Now, there's no doubt that you have all these agencies with high-level intelligence, capacity, and equipment. Nigeria has never been short of that. Now, what we have been short of is processing the intelligence. As you know, every agency or organization comes with its own bureaucracy. Criminals have no bureaucracy. They act, and it's very swift. So if I am in an agency where I have some form of information, and I want to act on the information, I probably have to take permission from a different hierarchy or level to be able to execute that particular intelligence, process it, and effect things properly. In that process, you could have what is called intelligence leakage. And that leakage may not be very easy to manage. Now, one very big missing link in all of these intelligence we have is the private sector. In my experience, I've worked with quite a fair bit of private sector organizations and governments around the world. Nigeria is one of them, and it's a great place because there are a lot of opportunities when it comes to these kind of issues. Now, the Nigerian sector is just in its early days of appreciating the efficacy of the private sector when it comes to issues like this. Israel is very good at it, and that is why it is very difficult to impregnate their security system. It's because of the private sector. And one of the best private sectors I've consulted for is Tantisa. We process intelligence very fast. They have long and short lines of communications that are very, very effective. So if we have the government that is also very high and mighty in its powers, make no mistakes. I mean, people may understand or have this perception that Nigeria is not serious. That is not correct. 3 days ago was the answer to those who thought that way. So, and why did that come up? It was a strong partnership between the government and the private sector. So once that trust is built between the government systems and the private sector, sure, we'll be able to overcome these problems. Because as I said in the past, bureaucracy is one of the issues that criminals exploit. They know that. Possibly, as previous speaker rightly said, there are a lot of people who worked in these places before that leave with high amount of knowledge to go do damage later on. I mean, I am a jet pilot, and after 9/11, I'm not allowed to renew my license unless I'm attached to an airline. It's one of the security measures taken against me. So how well are these experts who leave these various providers being monitored and their activities known, or they don't become consultants against their employers? So it's something we need to also visit. But as I said, the country is in a new dawn, and we are happy that they've taken this type of step. And we have to build on this step because we have shown that a good and intelligent private sector organization like Tantisa will be able to work very well with the government in processing intelligence and even sharing the one they have. That is actually the situation at the moment. Now, coming into the international scene, I would like to educate the citizens about something. Tantisa has got a lot of information on how these ships do move. One place, notably, which is a very big threat to the Nigeria's hydrocarbon economy, is the port of Tema in Ghana. Let us not hide anything or make mistakes about it. Most of these vessels, that is where they go to. They discharge in the port of Tema. And Tema has got Ghana's largest oil refinery. So is it coincidental that these ships go there? So it is something we need to take up with the Ghanaian government, because we can't continue to suffer our own citizens so others can survive. No, we will not sit back. So let's address those issues. I'll stop here again for now.
You're stopping with a very key point.
Absolutely, I mean, but a key point on which we can also continue.
Exactly, because these ships get somewhere, they're bet somewhere, discharge somewhere, return to Nigerian waters.
This one is just nearby.
Of course, yes. And having said that, of course, I'm sure government must have even known that before now. That some Ghanaian.
Let us assume that government didn't know. I was an insider in terms of security who's now said that, look, this is the reality that we have to deal with.
One of the points that he made that is very germane is the fact that the private sector is now getting involved in security. Because, as he pointed, talked about Israel. If you want to do anything in Israel, for instance, on security basis, definitely you're going to hire, the private sector. They are more equipped, right? They have fewer personnel, but more intelligent. They have the technology, to deploy in terms of investigation.
And the US also does
US
that.
also
I mean, you have military contractors,
exactly.
Blackwater, and so on and so
Exactly.
forth.
As
Yes.
you said, we're waking up. This is our morning with respect to that, because insecurity has been the bane of our development to some level, and something has to be done.
But Kieran, I'm sorry to jump in here. Captain Waredi also said something very useful. I don't know whether you and I were on set when we're discussing how to deal with banditry, kidnapping, and terrorism. If you recall, our military guests, ex-military guests, talked about security debarment allowance, because there were instances of ex-service personnel who had been caught as either suppliers to terrorists or had been participants in banditry themselves. So the security debarment allowance is an allowance which the federal government pays to ex-service personnel to ensure that they don't get into those kind of activities. In a sense, I remember I mentioned that, like in law, it's an equivalent of restraint of trade, and so on and so forth. He now is saying, look, if you have persons who have been trained in these activities, pipeline welding and so on and so forth, and they are now out of work or out of service, how do you keep a tab on them?
And again, people that may have been sacked, that are angry, that are not happy, and all of that, and they will now deploy their ingenuity in doing such thing, and making it work. And that's one thing. When I went to Urobo area in Niger Delta, honestly, I saw pipelines, the ones that we spawn pipeline, and you see families living around that pipeline. I was saying, okay, if there's a bust or something, how will these people live in this vicinity survive?
That's how Mossop, Golden Land came up.
So I saw these pipelines in villages, and you see houses around them, not even up to a kilometer away from them. But you could just do maybe a few meters, from a home to a pipeline. And I was wondering how these people are surviving in the area. Okay, now let's bring in Professor Dayo Ayode once more. I know you're not a security expert, well, at least you are a lawyer. How do we go about this? You have listened to Waredi, and of course his revelation is very apt. How do we begin to, handle the situation as it is now? Already, Tompolo and his group are in Niger Delta, and their primary assignment is to try and locate the areas where our fuel or our oil is being siphoned. That is one. Two, do you think that there should be other measures, especially as we have just learnt that those ships that come still into Nigeria and take our oil, berth in Ghana and discharge, and of course return to Nigeria? How do you think Nigerian government should take this up with Ghanaian government, and in fact any other government within the sub-Saharan Africa where this illicit business is progressing?
Kieran, Professor Yade, just to add to what Kieran just said, the same question: how should the Nigerian state internationalize the ill effects of the market for stolen crude, of which we are, of course, a major victim?
That's very interesting, because the Nigerian government knows what to do. I have no issues where the Nigerian government employs private contractors. Private contractors can be more efficient. They're much more lean. They don't have bureaucracy to contend with, and they can, if you give them a specific target, they can get back to you. But you also have to be careful that your institutions that are interfacing with these private contractors are not being subsumed. So you don't have a situation where the tail is wagging the dog, because our institutions must always be protected. Our institutions must be allowed to do their work. If the funding that should go to the Navy, that should go to the various security agencies that are watching over us, are diverted in any way to private pockets, there will be an impact ultimately. I think we should focus on reforming our institutions to make them much more efficient, to make sure they can get their job done in collaboration with also working with the private contractors. As to the international dimension, I read something recently where I think the GMD of NNPC talked about asking the international community to consider stolen. There should be no market for it. It's blood money. It's destructive money. But the oil that we have has a print. It has a DNA, if you like. Bonny Light or whatever blend you want to talk about is well known internationally as Nigeria's crude. You don't get it anywhere else. Now, what's the need for the international community? Is the international community to come and save us when we know what to do? Our security expert there mentioned the country and that a lot of our crude oil has been diverted there. I think it's well known to some extent, some of the security forces, it's known to some extent that some of the refineries in West Africa are picking up our cargoes. I'll be shocked if our intelligence agencies don't know this. What they're doing about it or what they're about to do about it, I don't know. So I think we have to be careful here. The institutions must do their work. As Nigerians, we insist that our institutions carry out the tasks for which constitutionally and for which we pay their salaries, for them to carry out the job for which they're there for. At the same time, we also utilize our private contractors to do specific tasks. Where we should be careful is when private individuals become governments effectively. And we may get to that stage where vast amount of money disappear into consulting fees. Some of them, for not much work done. So as I said, I expect some more revelations, but I'm not interested in the revelations so much as what the Nigerian state actually does about the revelations. And that's why when I said a judicial commission, I'm very, very well aware of so many years of documentation that's thrown in the bin. Let me make a quick analogy with the downstream sector. You may remember a few years ago when this issue of subsidy kept up, just something as what we are experiencing today. And I think the House of Representatives did a report on it, and they told us that the ships that came to Nigeria did not actually pick up the oil, because some of the ships that we said we found in Nigeria to pick up to deliver our white products were not even in Nigeria. Those days they were said to have been here. Thank you for that.
Okay, yeah, Professor Ayode, thank you. I get the point. I think it's an issue, it's a recommendation to be looked into, whether it's parliamentary inquiry or, which of course is legitimate, or the judicial inquiry. That's something else. But usually, of course, everybody makes reference to the Oputa panel and the decision of the Supreme Court that the tribunals of inquiry are usually state matters and not national matters. But I think we can find a way around it to get to understand just what went wrong, who dropped the ball, and how to step it. I was just wondering, in terms also of internationalizing the theft of our crude oil and therefore disrupting the market for stolen crude. Dr. Data Basi, Nigeria subscribes to the EITI principles. Has Nigeria ever raised this issue with the EITI so that it now becomes a matter, because you have a number of countries that subscribe to it? If, as it is indicated now, the Tema port in Ghana is one of the receivers of our stolen crude, there is nowhere in the world, let's be realistic, I know that criminal law is territorial, there's nowhere in the world where receipt of stolen property is legitimate. Has Nigeria tried to escalate this to the EITI?
Thank you very much. No, we've only highlighted this in our reports that our crude oil has destinations that they go to. But we only produce our reports, and recommendations in our reports are what we just highlight. And our report is viewed internationally also. So yeah, people are aware that our oil stolen crude are taken to places, destinations which are quite varied. Some go to Europe, some go to some Asian countries, and some within Africa. Yeah, it's within the system. We've reported in our reports that Nigerian crude oil is stolen, and then we need to also cap on those people that have a moral responsibility of not buying stolen crude from Nigeria. Like you rightly said, stolen crude is equivalent to blood diamond in the sense that because you're depriving people of their resources, and they are also people. This is people's asset, the whole country's asset that has been stolen. And the people that this thing is stolen from are also living in abject poverty because they're depriving them of income. We've reported on this in our report, and I think internationally it's well known. Thank you.
Okay, thank you indeed. Of course, we may return to this topic some other time because we have a lot to discuss about that. He said something, moral responsibility of not buying stolen oil. Where will he get that? You know, somebody will not buy cheap oil.
It's blood oil.
Yeah, exactly. All right, on that note, we concluded today's edition of the program. We would like to appreciate all our guests. First, Captain Waredi Niswa, Maritime Intelligence Aviation Satellite Systems Consultant for Tantita Security Services Nigeria. We thank you for sharing your experience and thoughts on this program today. Lidam Miti, lawyer, civil rights activist, former president of Movement for Survival of the People of Ogoni. He was with us. He went to, of course, do justice to his case in court this morning. Thank you also for your contributions. And we had the Professor Dayo Ayoade, Energy and Natural Resources Law Expert, University of Lagos. Thank you for coming. And via Zoom, we also had the privilege of sharing the experience of Dieta Basi George, Director Technical of the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. Thanks to all of you for being here this morning.
That's it for us on Good Morning Nigeria today. Join us tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock for a fresh package. I'm Kingsley Osadolo saying have a nice day.
And I'm Nigerian, Have a great day.